The Shang You series, and the Hai Ying series were early Chinese anti-ship missiles. They were derived from the Soviet P-15 Termit missile. The Hai 1 and Hai 2 received the NATO reporting name Silkworm. However, to confuse matters, Western media also referred to the Fei series, and its export derivatives, the Fei Long or FL series, as Silkworms. Fei series. The Fei series were developed from the Soviet P-15 Termit. They were used on small missile boats with limited electronics. The Chinese encountered difficulties making the missile compatible with the more complex systems of larger warships. This could have resulted in premature launches or detonations when the electronics were placed on full power. In response, the Hai series was designed for warships and to replace the Fei series. The Fei series was initially produced concurrently with the Hai series to arm missile boats and to provide an inexpensive alternative for export. This is the original Chinese version of Soviet P-15 Termit missile, and the first was Fei 1, produced at Factory 320. Chinese sources identify the designers as Li Tonglai and Lu Lin. The main difference between P-15 Termit and Fei 1 missiles is that the unreliable aneroid altimeter of P-15 Termit was replaced by a much more reliable radar altimeter in Fei 1. The successor of Fei 1, designed by Peng Lisheng and designated as SY-1A, had a monopulse terminal guidance radar seeker replacing the original conical scanning radar seeker. The missile received a NATO reporting name CSSN-1 Scrubrush. The missile has been upgraded to be air-launched, and the air-launched version is known as C-601, which is the first air-launched anti-ship missile in China. The missile received a NATO reporting name KAZ-1 Kraken. It was used by Iraqi H-6 during Iran-Iraq War. An upgraded version that is fully solid-state with integrated circuitry and new active radar homing seeker and new radar altimeter entered service as SY-1A in early 1980s. Specifications: length 6.55 meters, diameter 0.76 meters, wingspan 2.4 meters, weight 2,095 kilogram, warhead 513 kilograms, shape, charge, high explosive, propulsion 1 liquid rocket engine and 1 solid rocket booster, speed Mach 0.8, range 150 kilometers. Cruising altitude and LT 20 meters. Guidance: inertial guidance plus active conical scanning terminal guidance radar or inertial plus active monopulse radar. Single shot kill probability 70%. The liquid fuel engine was rather hazardous and unreliable, so a solid fuel rocket engine was developed. This engine also made it possible to reduce the size and weight of the missile while providing greater range. The warhead weight is also reduced, but its effectiveness was actually increased when a time-delayed semi-armor-piercing high-explosive design was adopted. The extended version developed is designated SY-2A. Specification: length 6 meters, diameter 0.54 meters, wingspan 1.7 meters, weight 1,720 kilogram, warhead 365 kilograms, shape, charged, high explosive, propulsion of solid rocket engine and a solid booster, speed Mach 0.9, range 130 kilometers. Cruising altitude 20 meters. Guidance: inertial plus active radar. Single-shot kill probability, 70%. Hai series. Hai 1. The Hai 1 received two separate NATO reporting names, the CSSN-2 Safflower for the ship-to-ship version and the CSSC-2 Silkworm for the land-based coastal defense variant. The HY-1J was intended for use on the Type 051 destroyers. However, the turmoil of the Cultural Revolution prolonged development into the 1980s. As a result, the Type 51s deployed into the Pacific Ocean to support ballistic missile tests without anti-ship missiles. Variants Hai 1, basic developmental version developed from the Psi missiles, used only in very small numbers as land-to-ship missile for evaluation purposes, did not enter series production and was replaced by HY-1J. HY-1J, ship-to-ship variant for Type 051 DDG. HY-1J, improved ship-to-ship variant with a new radar seeker for better anti-jamming capability and accuracy. HY-1 land-to-ship variant based on the HY-1J. HY-1B, low-level target drone for the test of HQ-2A SAM. HJ-1YB target drone for the test of HQ-61 SAM. Specifications: length 6.60 meters, diameter 0.76 meters, wingspan 2.4 meters, weight 2,300 kilogram, warhead 513 kilograms, shape, charge, high explosive, propulsion 1 liquid rocket engine and 1 solid rocket booster, speed Mach 0.8, range 85 kilometers. Cruising altitude 100 to 300 meters and LT 20 meters. Guidance: inertial plus active conical scanning terminal guidance radar or inertial plus monopulse active radar. Single shot kill probability 70%. The Hai 2 is identical to the Hai 1 but with a further stretched body. The missile features a round nose accommodating the radar seeker, a pair of mid-mounted delta wings on the middle section of missile body, and three-tailed control surfaces. The missile is powered by a liquid fuel rocket motor, with a solid rocket booster attached under the missile fuselage. The Hai 2 is launched from land-based launcher and flies at an altitude of 1,000 meters during the initial stage of the flight. After the missile switched to the cruising mode, the flight altitude was reduced to 100 to 300 meters. During the final stage of the flight, the missile switched on its radar seeker and dives to an altitude of 8 meters until it hits the target. The single-shot hit probability is estimated to be 90%. Due to its oversized body, the Hai 2 did not develop a ship-to-ship variant. The missile is obsolete and will be replaced by the YJ-8 series in the future. The Hai 2 was widely exported to the Middle East, and was the missile most associated with the Silkworm nickname. Variants: Hai 2, basic variant radar guidance land-to-ship missile * developed from the Hai 1 missile. HY-2A IR guidance variant. HY-2AI improved variant of the HY-2A. HY-2B improved radar guidance variant with a monopulse radar seeker replacing the original conical scanning radar. HY-2B improved variant of the HY-2B with a newly designed radar seeker. C201 export designation for Hai 2. C201W extended range variant powered by a turbojet engine replacing the original liquid fuel rocket motor. Export only. YJ6 air-launched variant of the Hai 2. YJ61 improved variant of the YJ6. Specifications: dimensions, length 7.48 meters, diameter 0.76 meters, wingspan 2.4 meters, Launch weight 2,998 kg. Warhead 513 kg. Shape, charge, high explosive. Propulsion 1 liquid rocket engine and 1 solid rocket booster. Speed Mach 0.8. Range 200 km. Flight altitude and LT 20 meters. Guidance: inertial plus active conical scanning terminal guidance radar, or inertial plus infrared homing guidance, or inertial plus monopulse active radar. Single shot hit probability 90%. Hai 3. The HAIYING-3 is the active radar homing, ramjet-powered supersonic land-to-ship missile developed by China Hai Ying Electromechanical Technology Academy. The missile was developed in the 1980s based on the design of the Hai 2 and the ramjet technology of the cancelled YJ-1. The development was completed in the early 1990s, but the missile did not enter service. The Hai 3 is a large-size missile with a slim forward body and sharp nose, and a fatter rear half with 4 solid rocket boosters and 2 ramjet engines located aft of the missile body. There are a pair of front cannons on the front fuselage, 4 control surfaces on the rear fuselage, and 4 smaller stabilizing fins attached on the solid rocket boosters. The booster motors accelerate the missile to past Mach 1.8, and the kerosene-fueled ramjet engines accelerate the missile to a cruise speed of Mach 2.0. Its range is variously reported as up to 130 kilometers, and it can fly as low as 50 meters in its terminal attack phase. The missile is programmed to dive from cruising altitude to under 30 meters before the active radar terminal phase begins, then dive onto the target just prior to impact. The 3.5T missile is launched from a land-based launcher. Each firing unit consists of 4 launchers, a target acquisition radar, a fire control unit, a power unit, and 8 to 12 missile reloading vehicle. Specifications: length 9.85 meters, diameter 0.76 meters, wingspan 2.24 meters, weight 3,400 kg, warhead 300 to 500 kg, time-delayed semi-armor piercing high explosive, propulsion 2 side-mounted ramjet engines, 4 solid propellant boost motors, speed Mach 2.5, range 180 kilometers. Flight altitude 50 meters, guidance, inertial and terminal active radar. The Hai 4 development of the C-201 is a mid-range ground, air, and ship-launched cruise missile. Development of the C-201 Hai 4 is believed to have started in the mid-1970s, replacing the C-201 Hai 2 liquid propellant sustainer motor with a small turbojet engine, and adding a monopulse active radar seeker. Apart from the substitution of the turbojet engine, the overall configuration of the Hai 4 variant of the C-201 missile is similar to the Hai 2 variants of the C-201, with 2 delta wings and triform rudder and tail. The missile has a radar altimeter which allows the cruise height to be varied between 70 and 200 meters altitude, followed by a steep dive onto the target. Specifications: developer China Sea Eagle Electromechanical Technology Co. Length 7.36 meters, diameter 0.76 meters, wingspan 2.4 meters, weight 1,740 kg, speed Mach 0.8 to 0.85, range 300 to 500 kilometers. Cruising altitude 8 meters, propulsion 1 turbojet engine and 1 solid rocket booster, FL series. The FL series was designed as land-based counterparts to the Psi series, and had a much longer production run than the Psi series. The FL series was less expensive since it did not have to deal with more demanding conditions at sea. An added benefit was the ability to locate the missiles separately from the targeting and control systems, which improved survivability and flexibility. The Psi, Hai, and FL series all shared the same systems. A supersonic version, the FL-7, was also developed but differed significantly from the Psi series and its immediate derivatives. The FL-1 was a Psi-1 with a high-frequency monopulse seeker. It used a radar altimeter to cruise at 30 meters. FL-2, the FL-2 anti-ship missiles, was the land-based derivative of the Psi-2. It was produced at the Nanchang Aircraft Factory. SFQ-1 was an unarmed test vehicle derivative of the Silkworm missile family. The test vehicle was used in the Chinese development of small turbojets that were designed to improve the range of the Chinese anti-ship cruise missiles, as well as powering the experimental versions of land attack YJ-4 cruise missiles. The entire project was reportedly named as Kunpeng Project, which first started in the early 1970s. SFQ-1 was specifically developed to test mini-turbojet engines WP-11 and FW-41. The Chinese reverse-engineered Western turbojet engines for UAVs and missiles. YJ-4 is a family of experimental land attack cruise missiles developed by China in the 1970s and early 1980s. Due to the limitation of Chinese industrial and technological bottleneck at the time, the YJ-4 only entered the Chinese services in extremely limited numbers, mainly serving as a foundation for more successful Chinese cruise missiles developed later, such as Changfeng missile. Two versions of YJ-4 family were developed. YJ-41, which is also frequently but erroneously referred as YJ-41, and YJ-4II, which is also frequently but erroneously referred as YJ-42. The two missiles only differed in the respective power plant. YJ-41 was equipped with WP-11, the Chinese version of Turbo Mecha Marbury, while the longer-range YJ-4II was equipped with an engine that was twice as powerful, FW-41, the Chinese version of Teledyne IJ-69. Reversed engineered from downed American Ryan Fireby, XW-41, a developed version based on Hai-4, known as the XW-41, has been developed. This latest version of the C-201 missile family is said to have a 300 km range with additional GPS/GLONASS guidance. However, due to the availability of more advanced anti-ship missile with similar range, such as the C-602, the future of XW-41, like others in the Silkworm missile family, is uncertain despite its successful trials. Although still a member of Silkworm Missile, the developer considers the missile was different enough to be listed as a separate category of its own due to the amount of new technologies adopted. After the Gulf War, United Arab Emirates ordered 30 of these shore-based versions for coastal defense, and accordingly to Jane's Defense Weekly, these missiles are referred by the general name Silkworm Missiles, but domestic Chinese sources have claimed that these were XW-41s, though there are reports claiming these missiles are other models of Silkworm series. YJ-63, XW-41 and its predecessor Hai-4 lost their intended market when the wars in Middle East ended, so XW-41 was converted to the first indigenously developed air-to-surface precision strike missile. The developmental work began in the mid-1990s when Sea Eagle Mechanical Electrical Research Academy received support of Chinese military and the project was completed in 2002. The resulting new missile was named as YJ-63, also known as C-603. In comparison to XW-41, the original radar guidance was changed to TV guidance. The original inverted Y configuration of tail control surfaces was changed to X configuration. Like its predecessor, XW-41, turbojet engine was adopted instead of liquid fuel rocket engine used on Hai 2, newest version of YJ-63 series that entered service in 2004-2005. This land attack version is almost identical to C-603 in appearance, except it has a solid nose instead of a window for TV guidance optronics. The solid nose indicates that the guidance of this air-to-surface missile adopts other means of guidance such as radar, but the exact type remained unknown. C-611, upgraded version of C-601 and other earlier models of the air-to-surface missiles of Silkworm family. Not all upgrades are necessarily the same due to difference between various versions, but electronics for all versions are upgraded to the latest standard. The seeker of the missile is modernized to include semi-active radar homing and passive homing capability, and the missile can be used against coastal ground targets. Cruise altitude is decreased while the range is increased. NOTS 1. North Korean NOTS 1 are KN-01 versions of Silkworm. Chinese and Russian P-15 Termit, Rubis, P-22 P-20. KN-01 is called locally GMC-1 Korean -1 produced locally. Nomenclature. Operational history. The Silkworm was developed at the Institute of Mechanics under Qian Zuzan, a Chinese scientist who did his graduate studies at MIT and Caltech, before being deported by the United States in 1955 after being suspected of communist ties. A book about this scientist's life was written by Iris Chang, entitled Thread of the Silkworm. Iran-Iraq War. The Silkworm gained fame in the 1980s when it was used by both sides in the Iran-Iraq War. Both countries were supplied by China. During 1987, Iran launched a number of Silkworm missiles from the Four Peninsula vicinity, striking the American-owned, Liberian-flagged tanker Hungarian U.S. flagged tanker Sea Isle City in October 1987. 5 other missiles struck areas in Kuwait earlier in the year. In October 1987, Kuwait's Sea Island offshore oil terminal was hit by an Iranian Silkworm which was observed to have originated from the Four Peninsula. The attack prompted Kuwait to deploy a Hawk missile battery on Fei Long Island to protect the terminal. In December 1987, another Iranian Silkworm was fired at the terminal, but it struck a decoy barge instead. Prior to these attacks, the missile's range was thought to be less than 80 kilometers, but these attacks proved that the range exceeded 100 kilometers, with Kuwaiti military observers seeing that the missiles originated from the area, and tracking them on radar along with U.S. satellite imagery of the launch sites. In March 1988, China agreed to stop supplying Iran with Hai 2 missiles, though it reportedly supplied Iran until 1989. Iran has since developed the capability to manufacture these missiles itself. Gulf War. On February 25, 1991, a shore-based Iraqi launcher fired 2 Silkworm missiles at the US Missouri, which was in company with the US Jarrett and HMS Gloucester. A Sea Dart missile from HMS Gloucester shot down one Silkworm and the other missed, crashing into the ocean. Royal Air Force officers subsequently recovered an Hai 2 missile at QASR in southern Iraq. It is currently displayed at the RAF Museum, Cosford. Iraq War. During the Iraq War, Iraq used the Silkworm as a surface-to-surface missile by firing at least 2 of them at the coalition positions in Kuwait. 2006 Lebanon War. During the 2006 Lebanon War, it was initially reported that Hezbollah guerrillas fired a Silkworm missile at an Israeli warship off the shore of Lebanon. Israeli sources later said that the missile used instead was a more sophisticated Chinese C-701. Notably, Syria and Egypt employed Soviet Styx missiles, the Russian-made precursors to the Silkworm, against Israeli warships in both the 1967 War of Attrition following the Six-Day War and the 1973 Yom Kippur War. While the missiles were ineffective during the Battle of Latakia in 1973, 4 Styx missiles fired by the Egyptian Navy sank the Israeli destroyer Eilat in October 1967, marking the first time that ship-to-ship missiles were successfully used in combat. While it is not a particularly sophisticated missile when compared to newer generations of anti-ship missiles such as the French Exocet, the Silkworm's unusually large warhead ensures that a single hit will inflict very serious damage. Operators. Current operators: Bangladesh, Cuba, Egypt, People's Republic of China, Pakistan, Iran, Iraq, Burma. North Korea has not won a KN-01, locally produced called GMC-1 Korean-1, both naval shipboat, coastal, submarine. Other variants and roles uses. Sudan, United Arab Emirates.